Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is October 21st. I'm finally catching up on everything. This is episode 148. In the news today, did I mention I was John A. Costa hosting this? Might have already forgot. It's sad. In today's podcast, which for those persons and people who are just watching, this is a conservative-leaning podcast that I use media from the liberal media all the way up to the conservative media. I blend the two together, the facts, and then come out with what I feel my opinion is. Today we're going to discuss again the No Kings protest, which was absolutely a waste of time. Did nothing because, of course, it's a fake situation. We don't have a king. Our laws and our form of our government, which is a republic, there's no room for a king, and you can't have a king. You have a constitution, which my granddaughter put my spider on. We have a constitution. We have voted in representatives to act in our stay. Whereas in a democracy, you don't have any of that. So we don't have a democracy. We have a republic that has democratic type processes in there, but not. Now, the agenda of the No Kings was, of course, Donald Trump, President Trump. But if you really wanted to look at who has been the biggest king, would have to be Joe Biden, who locked us in our homes, who forced us to get experimental shots, who insisted to state governors that you lock up people that congregated in groups, made sure that we couldn't visit our relatives, that we couldn't go to our places of religion. And you start thinking, who was the king? All right? The king was Biden. Trump hasn't taken anything away from anyone. As a matter of fact, Roe v. Wade, having that removed from the federal government and given back to the states where it always should have been. Even Justice Ginsburg had said that that was a horrible ruling, Roe v. Wade, and was destined to be overturned. Just that no one wanted to do it. So, President Trump is no king, because we can't have a king. And he's no threat to our democracy because we don't have a democracy. The Democratic talking points on their issues are non-issues. They don't exist. And yet their remedies are, well, this is what we need to do. for something that doesn't exist. Might as well have no leprechaun day. Look, no leprechauns, no tooth fairies, no ghosts. The idea behind this is, of course, to distract their own base. The Democrats are converting 0 Republicans to their fake cause. If anything, it's making those Republicans dig deeper and taking truly moderate Democrats and going, I cannot follow the path of the Democrats. These are not the Democrats. I don't know what they are, but they're not Democrats. And those moderates might, out of fear of being canceled still, or fear of fighting with people, just nod their head politely and go into the voting booth. They might have to hold their nose, and they vote Republican. Slowly, you're seeing Democrats come out of hiding and start speaking up against what their party is doing. And now it takes a lot of guts on their part to do it. But see, I can only blame the Democrats for allowing their party to be overrun by the progressives. You allowed it. You didn't step up, and you didn't address it. When you don't hear about the Tea Party anymore, right? You hear about MAGA, but the Tea Party, who wanted to be extremely radical with the Republicans. Well, the Republicans stepped up and go, yeah, we're not going to do that. And we'll take your slings and arrows, but that's not what we're about. The Make America Great Again was a great slogan, and it was easy to paint every Republican with that. And a lot of people liked that. What's so bad about making America great again? What is horrible about that? Other than the fact for myself, I was more, keep America great. We're already great. People wouldn't be flocking here like they're doing if America wasn't, a great place. But they're flocking here because the Democrats were just handing out free money everywhere. So, I get that. And, we're now having to address what the Democrats and some Republicans refuse to do. And now we have a president that is going, you couldn't make that decision. You couldn't do that. I'm doing it now. And thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And I said before, there were things that Joe Biden did that I thought America should be thankful for. And, again, I don't know if he did it or it was the DNC pushing him, but one of the things that he did for the American labor movement was to shore up their defined pension plans with a bailout. That, in one sense, they would have had to fund the Pension Guarantee Act, or Pension Protection Act, so much that it was just really probably more beneficial just to give the money to these pension funds and secure them. And that was a very gutsy move to make. Yes, it was political. Yes, it was trying to get the labor vote, mostly in Michigan, where you had it was an in-place state, and you had your Reagan Democrats that were there, and but he helped a lot of people in labor. So, to have a pension which they worked for, and they put their money away. The problem that I had with a lot of the pension reform acts was allowing pensions to put money into green projects without the approval of the participants. And we saw where that went, and we're still seeing that happen. There's a lot of state pension funds that are not defined funds, they're state funds, that are bankrupt. And Democrats don't talk about that. Ask the governor of Illinois how his pension fund's doing. And yet he gave $620 million so illegals could have a medical plan where people in their own state couldn't get medical. Citizens. And he made sure that all these people, all the illegals, had EBT, where seniors weren't getting food plans and roads weren't being repaired to the extent that they needed to. And, there was no additional funding for the elderly. So when I hear the Democrats saying, no kings because of Donald Trump, and I see what they're doing to our own citizens, Democrats, and knowing that we don't have a king because this is a republic. If we were a democracy, do you understand we could have a king? You do see that, right? You understand that, right? That if we were a democracy, we could have a king. But as a republic, there can be no king. That's why our brilliant forefathers, our founders, said, we are not a democracy, we are a republic. One nation, one set of laws. The Democrats want to unravel that all. I guarantee you that where you say no kings, no kings, no kings, I guarantee you that in the city of New York, if this communist gets in there, you'll have Sharia law courts in the city of New York. Guarantee it. And the Democrats support that. Democrats have talked about Sharia law. Well, for people that want Sharia law, maybe that's we should think about that, because our laws don't address religion as a factor in governing how laws are applied. So you must be worried with the Democrats who starts talking that nonsense, because that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Now, in a democracy, you could have that. But we don't have a democracy. I keep pointing that, I have to point that out to a lot of people. The democracy. What about our democracy? What about it? Can you show it to me? Because we don't have a democracy. It's very upsetting when I see No King's Day, and all that was a sponsored anti-government event, and then they go around and start passing the hat around, and you know, ignorant people just throw money into it. It's frightening to see the Democrats in action. And again, as I said in a previous podcast, we are going to use, when I say we, I'm talking about Republicans. And we are going to make sure that every one of those Democrats that supported the No Kings, everyone that have supported Mondani, everyone that has supported defund, we're going to put those ads up against every Democrat that is running. And those Democrats will be able to say, that's not me, that's those people over there. We're painting you with all the same paintbrushes, all the same paint, all the same strokes. You have Democratic senators that are afraid that if they make a deal to reopen the government, their liberal participants won't vote for them. That they now have to cater to the 5% of the left, the most radical, the most dangerous, the most violent. They have to worry about getting their votes, or they'll lose their seat. Guess what? Trump is a genius, because he recognized that a long time ago. And you guys painted yourself into a corner with the paint Trump gave you. Your blind hatred of the government, your hatred of President Trump will lead to your own demise. Because today was the day that I said, 3 weeks ago, if there is no movement, if there is no agreement, Trump is going to take this right to the November 21st. Which, even if they approved it today, expires on the 21st. Because this goes retroactive to the start of the no budget. So, but in the shadow dockets, Trump is saying, hey, I already have the approval to fire and take people off the government payroll. And there's been a district judge that said, no, you can't do that. And yet this has already been done. This has been settled and vetted. And this judge is going, no, that was then, and this is a showdown. There's no place that says a showdown, a shutdown. There's no place that says that rule is in effect. So, Russell Voigt and Trump by this coming Monday, and I predict it will be announced on Friday. Huge cuts are coming inside the federal system so that there is money to pay essential federal workers. And they'll get something through for that. They'll figure out a workaround for that. And Monday, when this takes effect, you're going to have the Democrats screaming, no, we want, we want this. And you're going to have Speaker Johnson go, all that stuff we were discussing over there, now off the table. The president doesn't want it on the table anymore. So either you accept the original plan, or you keep the government shut down. There you go. The Democrats did this to themselves. And the Democratic senators that are afraid that they'll lose will have to make a decision. Do we buck the AOCs and do this? And I mean, the answer is very simple. The answer is very simple. And it really is. And I'll give you what you need to do, Democrats. You need to go to the president as a group and say, we will sign the budget. We'd like the 1-year extension on the big beautiful bill for premiums, and it won't go this way, and we'll work out something where it's a lot more manageable on people who will become eligible for government assistance, non-citizens. And let's get a budget for a year. When the opposition, which is just a small minority inside of the Democratic caucuses, the moderate Democrats have to band together and go, we're exposing you, and we're exposing you, and we're exposing you. And guess what? If we go down, you're going down with me. And that's the way it will work. And we'll take the whole house of cards and we'll pull them down. Because the majority of the moderates will survive. It's the handful of kind of moderate Democrats, but who need those extra 3 and 4% votes and money coming in, and the left does deliver the money because the left is being giving it through Soros and a couple of Chinese groups and others. And if that money stops and goes to a Mondami or something of that, they don't get it. So money talks, and you know what walks. So they have to expose these people, and quickly, to make them ineffective. That's your Democrats' only hope. And you'll have people come out and go, well, you should have did this 3 weeks ago. You should have, let. Well, you're going to have to face that. And then you're going to have to face the scrutiny that you were taking money from people probably you shouldn't be taking money from. But if you put those people back to work and you go, I did this, I couldn't worry about 5% of the people because I had 95% of the people I had to worry about over here. And we knew that some people were not going to come out of this unscathed, but I got to look at the 95. Some people will not be being able to be saved. Their jobs will not be safe. There are no guarantees. So I think the Democrats could have used this, in a sense, to their advantage to get rid of the radical left that's in there and become more moderate and more in line with the Republicans to get things done. Now, I know that sounds simple, and this is something that should have been done a long time ago, but they did not. And now you have senators and, of course, a lot of people in Congress who are worried. The senators know that they're going to lose districts in the Congress, in the House of Representatives. They're going to lose. They're going to lose that. They're going to lose that statewide. They're going to lose that federal side. That is a 100% certainty that the 1965 Voting Rights Act is going to be realigned, not gutted, just realigned, so that there aren't things in there that's unconstitutional. So this is going to be interesting, but and you have people saying, well, the Republicans are going to pick up 19 more seats. I think the Republicans are going to pick up a hell of a lot more than 19 seats, and I think the Senate's in for a bad time too. And I've said this from the day of my first podcast. You can go back and look at it. I don't want to see an all red or all blue everything. That makes for bad things. It makes for bad things. And I like when people can work together where they could break bread instead of breaking heads. The Democrats have shown absolutely no willingness to work with the Republicans. Outwardly have not shown that. As much as I dislike the politics of Chuck Schumer was a New Yorker. He knew how to deal with Trump. He knew how to deal with him. He could have gone in there. Believe me, Chuck Schumer could have solved this problem. But he wasn't allowed. And why? Because his seat was threatened by the radicals. And this is what I said, guys, you got to get rid of those radicals. Because they're not radicals in the sense that, we want to bring good changes. They want to tear everything down. They're not interested in the book. They want to write their own book. And that's dangerous to a republic, because it won't be a republic anymore. They truly want a democracy. And just so you understand, a true democracy could bring back slavery. A true democracy could outlaw homosexuality with a death sentence. Do you understand that? In a true democracy, not having an abortion could be the law. You can't have one. In a true democracy. In a true democracy, everyone might be able to carry bazookas. In a true democracy, murder could be legal. So when I hear you talk about democracy, what are you really talking about in a democracy? Yeah, I'd like to leave me comments. What do you really think a democracy is? And you better look it up, because believe me, I know. I don't even have to look it up. So, what you really want is what you consider meaningful changes. But if you can't your problem is you can't get them through the system, because our republic says it's out for a vote by the people that we represent, to represent us. And we have branches of government that stop bad things from happening. And you don't like that. That takes too long, gets in your way. It's an inconvenience. No. I think you need to really understand how the government works. And, I mean, in a republic, it should be fair, and we have processes that sometimes are not done. And you're right. There are certain things that people do to try to game the system. And that they should be brought up on charges, and they should be brought forward, like Comey, like Brennan, like Clapper, like Hillary Clinton, like Obama. How about that? You for that? Because those are people that tried to game the system. Trump, and you don't even realize it. You can't fathom it. Trump used the system. And guess what? The system works. If anyone can prove the system works, it's Donald Trump. But you will never admit that. You can't admit that, because that would destroy your whole fantasy. that would turn your world upside down. So you can't admit that. And I don't expect any progressive to believe that. Sad. I'm just looking over and make sure everything else is working here. I've had some bad days here of stuff not working, and then looking around and going, ugh, what did I do? What did I do now? I try to be as unbiased as I can. And I will throw my thinking into the mix. And I appreciate those people that will go, yeah, but what about this? Now, I'm not a big whataboutism person, because it isn't a matter of scorekeeping. It's a matter of what's allowed. And you could almost say right and wrong. So I do understand where a lot of people on the left come from. But it's the wrong spot to be on. Because you might say, well, this person did this, this, and this, and you're correct. And then you say, well, this person should have been called out on this, but this is what the law states, and this is what you're supposed to do. And, you know, that person just did the same thing the other person was doing. So two rights make, or two wrongs make a right. You know, I can understand some of that. But we have to go and use the law. The law. One law for one people. That's it. But in our system of government, we can make changes through the prescribed mechanism. And of course, the first 10 amendments are very, very powerful. I must take this call real quick.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm on the air right now, Al, so I'll give you a call back.
Okay. If I don't speak to you later today, I'll speak to you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
That's one of my many viewers. But he's not watching me live. He watches me at night. Oh, that just sounds creepy. Whatever. Since my podcasts are all saved on my channel, youtube.com at JOHNFATKAT. So you could see all my podcasts, all my shorts, all my live broadcasts, which I record and then I put my edited comments in there. If you're watching this live or you go to the live, I take all that. I put it out, but then I edit the recorded show, and I put all, like I said, my little comments in there. And if I make any mistakes in there, and when I'm going over it, I go, then I'll make a correction. And if someone points out the unlikely event that I made a mistake that I did not catch, and that is a mistake or a flub, or, hey, you were just wrong, then I go and I make that correction in the next day or two, and I go, hey, in the last podcast I said this, and I was wrong. I was called out. I looked. Guess what? I was wrong. And, I got it confused, or was just outright, I don't know what I was thinking, but, yeah, when I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's wrong. And when I mean wrong, I mean non-factual. Non-factual. If I'm ranting, well, that's a rant, but it's usually unfactual. On things I could prove back have happened. You had, when I said the No King's Day, you had that one guy, on a microphone telling people to shoot ICE agents. And that got, on the air. And I understand where the news media can do that, but what that does, and it's secretly and purposely done to incite people. Why would you put that up there? Why would you show that? You could say, hey, they were violent people there and people making threats, to agent, and that's it. You don't have to put it out there and give the guy his whole 40 seconds of fame up there on a microphone saying you should shoot them in the head, you should kill them. Don Lemon making statements, allegedly. They shouldn't be given any. You should just say he made really terrible references, and that's it. But you shouldn't even he shouldn't even be in the news. You shouldn't give him any news because he'll incite people. He'll incite other mentally ill people. And then what happens? We paint all Democrats with this. Mr. President, I will get back to you. We shouldn't paint all people with that same brush, but when you don't have Democrats in power come up and go, that is what that guy was saying is exactly what we don't want to have happen. That guy is not speaking for Democrats. And the police should get him. He's making threats. No. So, but they don't. And that's why I said the moderates, a lot of them are going, hey, that's terrible to say. Wink, wink. And that's what we're going to press. That's what we're going to show. That's what we're going to do in advertisement for political campaigns. And call people out. Bumper stickers are a thing of the past. This, where we can go out, where it could be focused into a community, because most people don't even watch over the air anymore. There's still people that do it, but for most of it, it's being cabled into the house and stuff, and we know how to market to those people. So, this 2026 election is going to be interesting in how how both parties are going to do their push out into the voters. I can't see how any Democrat that, is in a state where they're leading by less than 10 or 12 points, is comfortable. And there's some places where they're, because of the makeup of the district lines, they're very safe. They're not going anywhere unless the district line changes. And then, yeah. And, and again, that's in our federal Congresses, the House of Representatives. Because the Senate, it doesn't vote that way. It's one person, one vote. It doesn't matter where. Where in the House of Representatives, of course, it goes by district lines. So, hence, representatives. I think that the Democrats are in trouble, and I mean real long-term trouble. Because right now they don't have the majority, but they have enough to stop. And people are going to go, you know what, we wanted the president to go in there and be able to do what we wanted them to do. So now we're going to go after those people that are stopping him. And we're going to tilt that. And you Democrats gave that power to make that happen. For the life of me, I can't figure out what you people do. I can't do it. It doesn't make sense. It's self-defeating. It just doesn't make sense. I need my coffee today. So I'm going to try to get this out ASAP within like the next hour up onto my site, because I must help my brother with a car today. And I got to do my car, and I got to be busy. And it's cool here today. I think we have a temperature only going up into the 60s today, which is nice car working temperature. Like I said, I will not be doing any podcasts after Wednesday of this week. I'm so far gone, but after Wednesday of this week, I will not have a podcast until November 2nd. And those are circumstances beyond my control. But what I am going to do is I am going to take one of my cameras with me, my switcher, and I'm almost certain that if something, an event or anything that I need, I will be able to at least within a day get something up. And that's just the way it is. I can't do much more. I'm sorry about that, folks. And I know, Bob in New York, you'll truly miss my inspiration, but you'll get over it, and you could always call me. Yeah, I know what you're going to call me to. All right. With that, I'm going to say thank you again for those that are watching for the first time. This might be a lot to digest, but everything I said is factual. And I'd love to hear back from people, and I do. And it could be done. I could be reached at either John Fatcat at gmail.com, or I could be reached at John, John, Radio, Radio, TV, at gmail.com. And that's John Radio TV, Thomas Victor, and send me an email. Just put something in the comment, news with a view, you're stupid, you're wrong, I think you're great, you're spot on, just so it stands out. Because I get hundreds of emails, and I like seeing the ones and grabbing them, and then I can answer it. So at the end of every one of my podcasts, I always ask that you think about giving to a charity of your choice. You go to that charity. Don't have them come to you, because don't become a victim helping a victim. If you're uncomfortable with that, I can understand people being uncomfortable with that. Take some food to a food bank. And what I suggest, just in saying this as I always do, always look for buy one, get one free. If you're going to buy something that you're going to use, then you got an extra one, didn't cost you anything. But if you do that on a couple of items, and you get 4 or 5 or 6 things that you can just drop off at a food bank, they appreciate that. And you go, well, I feel funny. 4 or 5 items to a food bank, don't they need truckloads? And the answer is yes, they do need truckloads. But to a person that has no cans, 4 or 5 cans look pretty good. And that's the way you have to think. A little can turn to a lot if you get a couple of people to do it. So think about it. The other thing that I always say at the end of my podcast is say a prayer. Prayer works no matter what a Democrat tells you. Prayer does work. And if you want to know why I use that reference, email me and I'll tell you. With that, I probably will do a podcast tonight for tomorrow. Because tomorrow will be Wednesday. And I got a lot to do before I go. Before I take care of my business. I got a lot of things to do. And I might do that tonight, and so that's in the can, scheduled to go on Wednesday. And the Wednesday one I will do might go out on the Thursday. I don't think I have enough material that would be relevant for me to build podcasts and have them scheduled to go out, because it just might not be topical enough. So we'll see. With that, I am going to, as I always do, fade to